Record. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Mindset Monday. Wow. So today is going to be a really good one because we're talking about it's us versus the problem, how we can work together to solve challenges. This coaching call came at the request of Savannah. So if there's anyone that has a request in here, ask. Closed mouths do not get fed. I'm trying to continue to create the culture of asking questions because the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Closed mouths do not get fed. Information without implementation is just noise. So I'm trying to develop a culture of asking questions, of being outspoken, of being willing to maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable and put yourself out there and ask a question. The reason is because a lot of you guys, maybe you send me a question in the app, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. My job is to coach you guys one-on-one, absolutely. But imagine if you ask that question and maybe somebody else has the same question. What if we ask the question publicly and it gives me more time to publicly address it with everybody else? What if you have a question that maybe will help somebody else who's also on this journey? What if we can expand on it a little bit more if you were willing to ask that question publicly and put yourself in a vulnerable state? When you ask a question, it's not that you don't have the answer, it's just that maybe you need a different perspective. Maybe you want to look at it from a different point of view. So I'm trying to work on instilling a culture of you guys being willing to ask questions, put yourself out there, and receive value and then do something about it. Taking notes, putting these coaching calls on your calendar so you are hopefully behind the desk on your computer. Like there's nothing wrong with tuning in from the gym or from working out, from wherever you at. I will always appreciate that. But when I do my coaching calls with my business coach, I don't do it anywhere in the house. I used to do it in the kitchen while I was making food, and then I realized I don't have a place to take notes. So I've started putting them on a calendar consistently, blocking out the time, sitting, taking in the value, making changes, applying the stuff, and then taking action on it. Everything is a signal. So let's dive into today's coaching call. This is my background, by the way, for my computer. So I have one from my phone that I shared the other night, and this is my background for my computer. So deliver energy and value to my clients, follow my schedule with loyalty, trust, and train team to excellence. Own your future by staying loyal to yourself. Stay fucking devoted. So let's hit present. All right, here we go. So it's us versus the problem, working together to solve challenges. When I was asked to talk about this, I had a self-limiting belief. I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, how are you going to talk about this when you've been through multiple divorces? How can you talk about a relationship when you're not in one? How can you talk about how to work together with someone when you have quite literally been at odds in almost every relationship that you've been in for the most part? And it made me realize that I know exactly what not to do. And it also made me realize that a relationship is not just a marriage. A relationship is not just a partner that you are in a relationship with. A relationship could be your child. A relationship could be a friend, a coworker, a colleague. It could be your mom, your dad. It could be a friend. It could be someone in this community. A relationship is someone that you are working with to solve problems with together. You guys are in the same boat together. You both have an invested interest in rowing in the same direction. And I can tell you right now, I know exactly what I am looking for in a partner because I know exactly what I don't like in a partner. And my job right now is not to look out or be dating to try and attract somebody. My job is to be the best version of myself so I could one day be that for someone else. I am in no shape or form at the point where I want to be in anything like that right now because I know where I'm at. I know the fact that right now I am married to my business. And not only am I okay with that, that's what I want for myself. And I need to have a good relationship with my business because before I know it, I could be at odds with my business and I don't want that. So we're going to be talking about how to solve challenges together by working together. So this program, Vet Rise Academy, is not just about dropping weight or hitting your macros. It's not. It's about improving your life as a whole. And something I forgot to mention earlier is the fact that there are 5 of you that renewed for a year, and you already have a year or maybe a little bit less left in the program. You are committing to being around for at least 2 more years with me. And that points out to me that you are committed to your change. And I want you to stay with this, not because you need it, but because you want to, because you see the value in the coaching calls. You see the value in the community. You see the value in the things we are doing, the things we are changing, the perspectives that we are shifting for you and for us. And that's why I am taking responsibility to make sure that I freaking always deliver. So often, what happens and what I've seen happen before, especially for me, is that when one partner starts working on themselves, the other feels left behind or disconnected. Today, I want to shift that perspective. It is not you versus them. It is not you versus anything else besides the problem. It is both of you. It is you both versus the problem. So today, we're going to be talking about how to challenge the typical mindset of a problem in a relationship needs to be solved by winning. The way that you win a problem in a relationship is by working together to solve that problem together. So let's dive into it. We're going to explore how to approach challenges as a team and grow stronger together, not individually. Like I said, often when one partner starts working on themselves, the other feels left behind or disconnected. And I want to shift that perspective with you guys. So, the problem with the me versus you mentality. One of the common pitfalls with that is that a lot of couples will unintentionally slip into blame. You're not supporting me, or you're always focused on yourself, or, oh, you're going to the gym again and I have to watch the kids, or, oh, well, I'm trying not to drink and here you are drinking every weekend, or you're not putting stuff on the calendar. This mindset, this way of thinking creates division and resentment. And believe it or not, resentment comes in a lot of different ways. Even if you are willing to do some of the things that your partner wants you to do, if you're not on the same page, if it's not something that you understand why you're doing, if you're not devoted to it and you're just doing it because you think you have to, or you think that, well, happy wife, happy life, or if you think, well, he's my hubby, I love him, you're going to build up resentment. Whether you know it or not, and eventually it will blow up and it will show its ugly face in one way, shape, or form. It is not productive, and often it's going to worsen the issue. So we have to think of a better approach. And what is that better approach? Instead of thinking as challenges as an external problem, not something internal to the relationship, that's how we can shift the perspective of what the problem is. For example, how can we both tackle meal prep together instead of you never help me with cooking? How can we take time, sit down, work on our calendar, and figure out how we can both make it to the gym this week instead of, well, you're always going to the gym and I'm not? How can we both decide what parties we're going to go to together instead of, well, I don't want to go to this party, but you do, so that's fine, I'll go. We have to tackle the problem together. Now, a lot of you were in the military. You understand the power of a team mindset. Think back to your time in the military or any team setting. It doesn't even have to be the military. You didn't solve problems alone. You relied on your team. In fact, when someone wanted to be an individual on that team, typically they would be humbled in one way, shape, or form. No one knows better than the other person. People just have different approaches. And the point of all of this is to get to that approach. The relationship you are in right now, whatever type of relationship it is, you have to remember you are a team. In a relationship, you are each other's team. You have to approach the problem together instead of fighting about it. Fighting about it, arguing about it, not taking time to decompress and come back together at a later point of the day, maybe even the week. That doesn't help you. You have to support each other because sometimes that's all you have. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to remember that you are on the same team. If one person struggles with fitness, the other can help plan active date nights or cook healthy meals. If one person is struggling with doing the calendar, the other person can help them by maybe taking the kids for a little bit so the other person can sit down and get the calendar right. If one person is struggling with the morning routine, maybe the other person can help them by making sure that the wind down routine the night before, you do it together. Now, us versus the problem. What does that mean? It means that you have a shared obstacle. It means that you both have something that you can overcome together. And when you do something hard individually, you know how good it feels to conquer it. Imagine how good it will feel to conquer it together. You have to remember that the issue is not your partner. The issue is the obstacle that you are both facing, whatever it is. whether it's finances, whether it's calendar, whether it's agreement on child raising, whatever the issue is, it is a common problem that you both have. Weight loss goals sometimes can feel one-sided, especially if maybe you feel like you're on this journey alone and maybe you have a lack of time for your meal prep or your workouts. Maybe right now you have poor communication about your goals and your priorities. And if this is you, I need you to be honest with yourself. Because unless you are verbalizing it and communicating with your partner, how is your partner supposed to know? They cannot read your mind. And if you are working on yourself individually, but you don't share and you don't work on it together and you don't help the other person by showing them, by doing the work, by talking, by communicating, guess what will happen? Well, possibly one person can be left behind. And in my opinion, that's one of the biggest problems with relationships. That's where the real issues start, when one person feels left behind. So you have to change the way that you look at the issue. You have to have a solution-focused mindset. You have to shift your focus on how do we solve this together? How do we sit down? How do we plan? How do we let go of the ego? How do we drop any of the arguments? How do we make sure we don't get into a yelling match and we can both address the issue at hand together? It starts with effective communication as a team. You have to use we statements. We need to figure out our schedule versus you never plan ahead. You need to schedule check-ins with each other. Weekly check-ins to discuss not just your goals, your progress, your obstacles, but what are your passions? What are your dreams? What are the goals that you're like actively working towards in life together, and making sure that they align is one of the most important things that you can do. You got to be open. You got to be vulnerable. This is the person that you possibly chose to spend the rest of your life with, or you may spend the rest of your life with. And if you don't feel safe enough to be vulnerable with that person, then there's other issues at hand. Vulnerability builds trust, and it helps bring up struggles constructively. It helps the other person understand you better. It helps the other person see that maybe you feel a very similar way that they feel. But if you don't talk to them, if you don't take the time to sit down, to communicate properly, not in the text message in the middle of the day when they're at work and you know it's going to stress them out more, not in the middle of a fight, not when the kids are present, but when you just have both decided that it is a time that you can both check in with each other, that you can both sit down, that you can both have no distractions, that is how you can talk about things constructively. Instead of hiding frustrations about maybe skipped workouts, or the fact that you missed your check-in, or the fact that they haven't helped you with the laundry, or the fact that they work all this overtime and you don't understand why, talk about how can we adjust this week to make sure that our workouts happen. How can we make sure you don't feel like you have to work all this overtime if maybe we start looking at our budget together and seeing where we can cut some stuff out? How can we make sure that you don't feel left out of the family because you're working so much that you don't get to see the children as much as I do? How can we make sure you show up for the kids and they hear you, they feel you, they see you present in their lives, instead of you feeling like you are not present and you just have to be the one that provides? We have to have shared goals. We cannot have individual goals. When you have shared goals, it helps both of you work together to achieve it. And those shared goals could be doing the budget together, looking at the calendar together, thinking about where you want to move together as a couple, thinking about what season of your life you are in. Maybe the season of your life you're in right now is where you have to step up a little bit so your partner can do the thing that fills them, lets them level up. But the mutual agreement has to be there that eventually you will have your time as well. And it is not about rushing the other person or rushing the process. It's about understanding that you have to mutually support each other and do it in any way you can. And maybe that means taking time to cook healthy meals together, maybe at least 3 times a week, or maybe it's just once a week. Maybe it's doing meal prep together on the weekends. Maybe that's sitting down and looking at your calendar together. Maybe that's agreeing to parent a certain way. You can also have individual goals within the partnership. One partner can focus on weight loss. The other might be working on gaining strength. One partner can be focused on parenting and spending more quality time with the kids and working on their core values and principles that kids need as well. And the other partner can focus on the finances and the budgeting. However, the only way you can do that is you have the mutual support and the mutual agreement that that is what you are working towards, and the communication piece is still there. You cannot just say, you handle this and I'll handle that without talking about what will actually be handled and being vulnerable enough and loving each other enough to trust the other person. There needs to be a balance. When you support each other's goals without feeling like it's one person's priorities over yours, you don't feel slighted. You don't feel like life is unfair for you. You don't feel like you're doing more than the other person. You both are giving your best effort in different areas of your life. You both are mutually supporting each other. You both are showing up for each other. Now, how can we overcome common challenges as a team? Maybe one partner is a little more motivated than the other. You have to find out why. You have to find out why, and you have to find a way or a simple solution to allow the other person to find that motivation. Maybe you have to find the middle ground at first. Start with small steps like walking together after dinner or you taking the kids on certain nights so they can go to the gym too. For all you know, they feel like you have to do your thing and they have to support you because the communication has never been had. Maybe right now you are in a place where there's so many time constraints that you have no time for anything right now. Share the load. Maybe divide responsibilities like meal prep, workout planning, childcare, chores for the kids, weekend duties, downtime with each other, date night. Plan it all out. Like I've said before, use your calendar as a map. And you can share your calendar with your loved one to make sure that you guys are on the same page. You can share a notes section in your phone to make sure you guys are putting stuff in there that you need to talk to about later on. Not right there. Not a text message in the middle of the day. Not just a random phone call that you know is going to stress out your partner. A lot of times we do this because we have misaligned priorities. You guys have to get on the same page. You should be talking openly about why your goals matter and how they impact the relationship. If you just start working on yourself and you don't explain why you're doing this, your partner could feel like maybe you're unhappy in the marriage, or maybe you feel like you're more important than them. When in reality, you're trying to do it because you miss the person that you used to be and you want to look good for them. And you also want to look good for yourself and you want to feel healthy and you want to be around for your kids for a longer time. But if you don't say these things out loud, how are they supposed to know? Before you know it, you might be inspiring them and motivating them. And before you know it, you guys might be on a journey together. So let's talk about some practical strategies for us versus the problem. First, you have to identify what the problem is. If you don't talk about it and you don't come to a term of what the issue is, you might think it's one thing when in reality it's something else. You have to clearly define the issue because it might not be scheduling. It might be boundaries. It might not be the consistency of showing up for each other. It might be the fact that one partner feels like when they say no or when they say that they can't, the other partner maybe reacts a little bit negatively. And that puts this mindset in place that the other partner cannot say no. So the issue comes back to communication, to respect, to boundaries. You have to identify what the real problem is. Sometimes it's not the thing that is at the surface. You have to dig down and get to the root cause of the real problem. Maybe it's the fact that one partner, one parent always wants to spoil the children because in their mind, the way that they were raised was that, well, if we give them treats or we let them stay up late at night, they feel like they're loved. When in reality, it's not true. Now, that doesn't mean that the other partner just imposes their will on the children. It means that the partner has to have a conversation. They have to really get down to the root issue. They have to figure out what can change to make it better for both, not just for one partner or the other. But the only way that you can really get to the problem is by really identifying, like, can I be more intentional with my time with my children? Maybe there is a time during the week that I can spend with my kids so they feel the quality time for me. So I don't feel like I have to keep them up at night. So I don't feel like I cannot give them chores because then they're going to be upset. Can we schedule time where we both talk to the kids? Can I have a hard conversation with my mom about, listen, mom, I love you, but you have to stop coming over every day. It is creating a bad habit and a bad routine for the kids. Maybe you have to have a relationship that is better, that is built on trust and on real communication. Maybe that's with your sister. Maybe that's with your new girlfriend who is kind of overstepping boundaries a little bit. If you don't talk about the issue, if you don't figure out what it is that you are feeling, you'll never nail it down. And if you don't nail it down, you can't address it properly. So once you guys do that, once you actually figure out what the real issue is, you have to brainstorm solutions. You have to work together and find fixes that benefit both of you. It has to be mutually supportive, but also mutually beneficial. And mutually beneficial does not mean that both partners necessarily go to the gym at the same time. No, it might mean that one partner has to be there and support the other partner by staying with the kids, or maybe canceling a membership that they really don't need and they really don't use. But the other partner has to be willing to sacrifice as well. And like I've said before, a lot, sacrifices are not real. Because if you understand what you are giving up and you truly can see what the benefit is, it will not hurt. It will not be a sacrifice. It will be something that you are willing to let go to get something better in return. But the other person will not let it go. The other person will not be willing to make that sacrifice if they don't understand the value that they will get on the back end. So you have to be willing to actually brainstorm solutions that are a benefit for both of you. Divide and conquer. You can assign tasks based on strengths. If one of you enjoys cooking, handle the meal prep. If the other is a little more tech savvy, you can plan the workouts in your calendar. You guys can look at the best way to save money on, using different websites for coupons or for deals or for whatever, or for shopping. Maybe one person is a little more patient with the children. Now, that doesn't mean that only one person has to deal with the children. That means that the other person needs to maybe learn a little bit more patience. But it does mean that one person can maybe approach it initially and start working with the children to make sure that you guys develop better habits for them. Because trust me, that matters a lot. Maybe it means that your mom or your father or your son or your daughter, whoever the other partner in the relationship is, maybe they can help you with something that you need help with, but you also have to be willing to set boundaries. You have to be willing to say no. And then celebrate wins. One of the reasons why we celebrate wins is not about becoming obnoxiously cocky. It's about becoming absolutely confident. There are signals everywhere in life. When you acknowledge progress, big or small, especially as a team, it is a signal that you are making progress. It is a signal that you are on the right path. It is a signal that the things you are doing are working. So do not just gloss over the wins. Celebrate them. Talk about them. Pay attention to where you were before and where you are now. Like, really pay attention to what's changing, what's getting better. Because when you identify the things that are improving, you can also start to identify what's not improving. What have I not really committed to changing in myself? What are we avoiding as far as a conversation? What issues do we continue to have even though we say we are working on ourselves? So, bringing it back to a military mindset. Mission first. When we were focused on mission. And this doesn't just apply to a military mindset. This applies to anything where you think of a team, a collaboration, efforts that are all in the same direction. The mission is improving your health, mindset, and connection. The team is you and your partner. The strategy is clear communication, shared goals, and mutual support. If you do these things, you will accomplish the mission. Now, there is not a clear-cut way of how to do it. It doesn't necessarily need to be done in any certain steps, but you have to be willing to understand that the mission is improving your health, mindset, and connection, which will improve your relationship. The team is you and your partner, you and your loved one. Maybe it's you and your son. Maybe it's you and your daughter. Maybe it is you and your mom. Whoever you have in your life that is your trusted partner, it doesn't matter who it is. You have to have clear communication. You have to have shared goals and mutual support. The same way that you love when they show up for you and you show them appreciation, they feel the same way when you do it for them. So, what can we do if maybe the other person isn't necessarily understanding why we're doing this? You have to be willing to lead by example. You have to be willing to be the person that is willing to start that change process. You have to be willing to support the other person. If you're the one motivated to make changes, lead by example. Don't get caught in the moment and start yelling back. Don't become petty and start sending messages back when they're not sending you the right messages. Don't allow other people to guide, influence, or change or tell you what you should be doing in your relationship. Don't take advice from your freaking friends who don't know the relationship. Inspire, don't demand. Show, show how your efforts are playing off without forcing your partner to change. I can't tell you how many times I've said this out loud, so many times, but when you guys have wins and you post your transformation post, or you post your progress post, or you talk about how amazing you are crushing it with your journey, you get all this love and support back from people who are inspired. One of the things that I do here is I'm not going to tell you what you have to do. I'm going to tell you what I need you to do, what I want you to do, but I have to inspire you. I have to lay out the groundwork. I have to lay the blueprint of what's possible for you because I want you to see yourself in a light that maybe you've never seen yourself before in. I want you to level up to a point where you don't even recognize who you are because you've made so many changes that you are starting to inspire not just the people around you, but the people that don't know you, the people that see you doing it over and over again. And encourage naturally, not by telling them, well, what I would do or what I think you should do. You can use a different way of doing it. For example, hey, why don't we try this healthy recipe tonight? It looks pretty delicious. Instead of, you need to stop eating junk food. Hey, how about we go for a walk? Instead of, well, you're always lazy and you don't do anything. Hey, how about we schedule some time with the kids this weekend instead of, well, you're going to just drink all weekend again, aren't you? Let your actions speak. Motivation is freaking contagious. Let your actions speak louder than your words. I promise you, two people cannot get into a yelling match if the other person is not yelling. There is no winning an argument. There is not. When you are at odds, when you're trying to fight with the other person in that argument, both of you lose. Sometimes it means taking a step back. Sometimes it means giving each other space. But motivation is contagious. And when I say motivation, I don't mean throwing weights around in the gym. I mean having the better attitude. And don't you dare do it with an arrogant, condescending tone. I want you to do it genuinely. Let the other person see that you are genuinely trying. Try, even if the other person doesn't try at first. They will come around. They are in your life for a reason. This is how we build a stronger relationship through shared effort. If you guys remember, maybe back in the military or back in your college days or back when you were a part of a team, you build a sense of camaraderie, a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood when you struggle together. You get closer when you go through issues together. Now, I'm not talking about trauma bonding. I'm talking about the fact that when you go through a situation together and you both realize it is you versus the problem, you build trust. It forges a connection. Working together to solve problems will 1000% strengthen the relationship, the trust, and the connection with everyone. Not just with you and your partner, but maybe this is with you and your children, maybe with you and your coworkers even. You can apply this everywhere. This is beyond just fitness, like I talked about. It's not just about fitness and nutrition. It's about building a partnership that actually lasts. And then you are both going to be mutually thriving. When you support each other, you create a relationship where both people thrive. Think back to a time when maybe you weren't on this journey. Maybe you weren't taking care of yourself. And think about the little bit of jealousy, the envy, the ugly face of envy that would show up when your partner would get back from the gym, sweating, happy, excited, full of serotonin and norepinephrine, epinephrine, all these chemicals like in their brains. And maybe you weren't the most supportive then. Maybe there was a little bit of that ugly jealousy. And instead of you saying, I'm jealous, maybe you would be the type of person that would be making up excuses of why you can't and why they can. Well, it's just because he has more time. Well, it's just because, I support them so much that I have to sacrifice myself for them. Think about what kind of feelings that built up for you. You're not there anymore. So don't get back there. Don't go back there. You have to mutually thrive together. That is how you build a relationship that will last, and a relationship that is healthy, a relationship that people will want to emulate, a relationship that is relentless in the pursuit of you two versus the problem. So, what can we do? What are some action steps that we can start today? Identify the challenge. Identify what that shared challenge is. Write it down. Brainstorm. Brainstorm solutions together. No idea is too small. Commit. Commit to one action as a team this week, and then check in. Check in weekly to assess progress and adjust your plan. Now, it seems so cut and dry, but this is the foundation of what you have to do. You have to figure out what the challenge is and then work together and brainstorm on what some solutions are. I promise you, if you are willing to give up a little bit of something, before you know it, your partner is also willing to give up something else to get to the solution, to solve the problem. And then you have to commit. Like I've said before, you cannot just be interested in change. You have to be committed to it. You have to write it down. You have to follow through with it. You have to set reminders. You have to stay consistent. You have to be fiercely loyal to the plan and continuously check in, continuously communicate, continuously adjust, continuously allow each other space when maybe the partner isn't doing their very best in that moment. Give them grace, but also remind them that you believe in them and that you are still committed to the process with them. You have to remember that you are in this together. You are a united front. It is never, ever, ever, ever about who's right or who's wrong. It's about finding solutions together, building a stronger relationship. You have to have a team approach. This approach will challenge you when you realize that you are not just an individual, that you can't make your own decision necessarily without realizing that it affects other people in your life that you have decided are in your life for a reason. It needs to always be both of you versus the problem. Your relationship is a team, and the stronger the team, the stronger the foundation, the stronger the commitment to each other, the easier it gets to overcome obstacles. Because before you know it, you're going to be looking at problems and realizing that it's not a problem anymore. It's not an issue. You are past it. And yes, new levels bring new devils. You'll have other stuff that you have to worry about. You'll have other issues that you have to talk about. That is a good thing. And that applies for you as well, individually. If you get to a level where now you have to worry about other stuff, that means that the little things in your life that used to be the big things are now not so big anymore. And imagine how amazing it feels when you can do it as a team. Every single progress post that you've done, every single picture that you've taken of your individual progress, imagine looking back and realizing that, wow, we actually have a consistent date night. Wow, we agree on our parenting styles. Wow, we are able to schedule a chore list for our kids and they follow through with it because they see that we are a united front. They don't go from mommy said this or daddy said that. So I want you guys to take action today, not tomorrow, today. And sit down with your partners, have a conversation, send them a text message if they don't live with you, and strengthen your relationship to give it everything you have to tackle your goals as a unit. So to recap, you have to remember that it is us versus the problem. You have to shift from me versus you to us versus the problem. You have to communicate effectively as a team. And to communicate effectively, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to feel a little bit open and really share what the problem is. If you're just doing surface level shit, you'll never get to the deep stuff. You have to be willing to share responsibilities and have a balance and still have your individual goals. You're an individual no matter what. Apply that teamwork mindset. Lead by example and support each other. Let them know that you are there for them and let them show up for you in the things that they can show up for you in. So I want you guys to identify a shared challenge that you have right now that you are facing together. I want you guys to take time and brainstorm some solutions together. And I want you to commit to taking action on it this week. And then I want you to schedule your first weekly check-in on your calendar. Set your phones to do not disturb. Sit down and talk and communicate. Assess what went well, what did not go well, and what you can do to change it. And then celebrate the wins. Address the progress. Thank you guys so much. That's going to be it for tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. Adios.